Oh my god. Fuck my life.
My base on 2B2T has been destroyed.
No. My base.
Or as the lingo goes here on the server, my base has been griefed.
What's this? Snail Evoc.
The perpetrator, Snail Evoc, has left 2 signs behind along with this penis sculpture made of obsidian, the hardest material in the game. As the sun sets on the Anarchy Minecraft server 2B2T, I chip away at the troll's cock. I then erect a monument in honor of my 2B2T hero, Meme Woman, who taught me to confront the server's destructive tendency with loving resistance. It's time to move on. My name is Søren Peter and I'm on a virtual pilgrimage. I'm trying to map the virtual world so I can find an online utopia. My journey first led me to the edge of the map, out here on the Anarchy Minecraft server 2B2T, and then later I tried to find my way through a new kind of public sphere, a dark forest at the center of the map by becoming part of the furry community. The guiding logic has been to get as far away as possible from my arch-enemy Mark Zuck.
Hey.
And the associated perseverance of surveillance capitalist exploitation. But now that a black hole has infested the center of my map, I once again ask, how far away did I really get? I discovered that the AI method I used to create my own personal furry character, my fursona, is deeply controversial in the furry community, where AI is commonly banned, since AI disrupts the microeconomy of the furries and their circulation of furry art created and sold by small independent artists. And this reflects a much broader societal trend where artists and creatives, soon all of us, lose work and meaning as the AI models conquer the world. And so, just as I thought that I'd found a beautiful little haven in the furry world, it turns out that Zuck, Bezos, Gates and the other owners of the big AI models still have their straws deep in my milkshake, sucking out all value of our community. This is a supermassive black hole rests at the center of the... A big black hole resting at the center of the virtual world that, according to some natural law, captures and breaks down all human activity into commodifiable data units, the building blocks of life turned into spider suck nutrition, the all-consuming Ungolia's never satiate. I've been called to a crisis meeting at the office that I share with my best friend, Malte.
Får du selv på nogen måde sådan stress af the suck, eller hvad man skal sige, når du laver det der?
Ja, altså, på en måde får jeg jo kæmpe stress af det.
Jeg tror bare, ja, jeg sætter mig på min cykel om morgenen og er glad, og så kommer jeg ind på kontoret, og så bliver jeg ked af det,
ja.
Fordi jeg bliver overvældet.
Det er mig, der ligesom er ved at finde ind til den her overvågningskapitalistiske logik, udtrykt som et kort, hvis det ikke er mening.
Jeg er lidt i tvivl om, er du i gang med at finde en sandhed, eller er du i gang med at ryge ned i et eller andet fuck rabbit hole? Jeg tror bare, du bliver nødt til at vælge. Det er enten mig, eller det er the suck.
I'm moving into a new office, and it's quite different from the cozy, homely atmosphere of the coffee roastery I shared with Malte. My new office is generic, like a computer rendering, a place without identity. It could be anywhere. The hallways stand deserted and sparkling clean, the only sign saying WC and exit. It's the perfect place for me to set sail for my next virtual destination. I want to travel into the very brain of the computer. the artificial intelligence. I've been fascinated with AI for more than 10 years, ever since Google turned their image recognition tool upside down and made it generate images instead of categorizing them. They named the invention Deep Dream, and Deep Dream produced images that were rightly compared to the art of the 20th century avant-garde's futuristic and surreal aesthetics that emerged on their own inside the computer when it was asked to generate dogs and cats out of pure noise. And long before ChatGPT conquered the world, I asked its predecessors to write Mark Zuckerberg poems for me in the styles of various authors, and I used the earliest fusion models to illustrate the poems. And to me, something very beautiful was happening inside the computer's Zuckerberg hallucinations, as if the AI hallucinated Zuckerberg was somehow milder and more human than the one I saw on TV being questioned by the US Senate.
If you see this, please like this. Like this. My purse is on my stomach.
I use StyleGAN models to create weird, mutating videos of my actors for my graduation film school film, and in the hallucinations of the computer I saw something that changed my view of both art and creativity. I dreamed of an AI avant-garde that could turn our worldview upside down with the same force as the avant-gardes of the 20th century. An artificial intelligence that could expand our perspective on ourselves and the world, perhaps even increase our capacity for empathy and compassion. Today my AI enthusiasm feels like a hazy dream from a distant past. Today we instead talk about the dead internet theory, the story of an internet taken over by AI that either produces or hunts for data, an internet that by 2026 may consist of 90% junk, bots talking to each other in Twitter threads and Reddit forums, AI-generated images and videos everywhere, deserted game servers whose only inhabitants are NPCs spinning around in server parks in the middle of nowhere months and years after the last human player logged off. At my new office I once again rethink my map from scratch. I want my map to somehow reveal a path right through the dead internet, through the firewall of AI garbage, so I can regain the hope I felt at the very beginning of the current AI revolution. I searched online for an expert who can help me navigate the world of artificial intelligence, and there's definitely no shortage of AI experts, many of them brimming with answers, but there's just something about these tech engineers and their confident bird's eye view of things that feels like the opposite of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an AI perspective that is open, soft and uncertain, and I feel like I've found it when I read the very last page of the book The Machines Come From Within by AI scientist Anders Søgaard. He writes, "After 20 years I still don't understand artificial intelligence." Anders' career path is uncommon. He began as a poet in the early noughts, and from there he worked his way into computer science, eventually becoming a professor in natural language processing. And today he's working with the very AI models that are currently reshaping the world. I meet up with Anders at the Department of Computer Science just around the corner from where I live. His office is just as featureless as my own, the generic birthplace of the AI models.
I dag er kunstig intelligens noget, der foregår i kontorlandskaber, som kontorlandskaber er flest. Den der sådan fysiske nærhed til computer var jo en vigtig præmis engang.
Anders is the kind of guy who pauses in the doorway and proclaims,
Wittgenstein tog fejl.
Ludwig Wittgenstein, the great philosopher of language of the interwar period, who wrote one of his two major works in the trenches during World War I, and who, along with Inger Christensen and Hannah Arendt, is part of my personal holy trinity of 20th century thinkers. I sense that Anders has something important to teach me, not just about AI, but about my fundamental worldview.
Når jeg skal lave en sprogmodel, så starter jeg med at definere, hvor mange koefficienter tænker jeg har brug for. Så giv mig en matematisk funktion med 1 million variabler. Når jeg gør det, så åbner jeg det, som jeg kalder et landskab. Landskabet, hvor i alle mulige matematiske funktioner med 1 million koefficienter befinder sig. I det, der er der nærmest uendelig mange modeller. Der er chatbots, som ved alt om H.C. Andersen, og der er maskinoversættelsesprogrammer og talegenkendelsesprogrammer. Hver af de modeller kan så repræsentere en kortlægning af verden. Altså en sprogmodel, som er forankret i tekst, er jo primært et kort over vores begreber, og de begreber, der er sprogliggjorte. Så det vil sige, de punkter, der flyder rundt i det her koordinatsystem, er dem, som vi har sat ord på. Og det er jo selvfølgelig kun en del af verden, vi har sat ord på.
What the AI researchers discovered to their own surprise was that even though the world maps that emerged within the AI models consisted solely of language and concepts, the maps clearly mirrored physical reality.
Og for eksempel så var en af de ting, vi begyndte at kunne se, var, at de her stednavne faktisk begyndte ligesom at afspejle nogle strukturer, der i høj grad lignede fysiske kort. Farvetermer for eksempel begyndte at afspejle sådan nogle farvecharts, som man kender fra kombinationspsykologien. På en masse punkter, som viste sig inde i de her kæmpe koordinatsystemer, der begyndte der at opstå nogle strukturer, som minder rigtig meget om de strukturer, som vi ville sætte os ned og tegne, hvis vi skulle forklare nogen, hvordan verden hænger sammen.
And so we return to Wittgenstein.
Wittgenstein tog fejl. De fleste farveblinde og blinde har nogle begreber om farver, som afspejler vores ret godt. Og det har de selvfølgelig tilegnet sig gennem den måde, folk taler om farver på. Pointen er, at der er mange veje til at opbygge nogenlunde den samme idé om verden.
Back in my office, I moved my map from the wall to the floor. I wanted to represent the abstract, multidimensional mathematical landscape where all potential AI models live. And in the center of the map, I raise a cube, which represents such an AI model. Within it, there's a network of concepts defined by millions of mathematical parameters, which, according to Anders, constitute a map of the world. A world map that takes shape by the relative position of the abstract concepts within it, a so-called geometry of concepts that has proven surprisingly robust in reflecting reality, even though the AI models, like some kind of blind and deaf creatures, have never directly sensed the world. While I sail down the Southern Canal on 2B2T, I try to imagine a metaphor for such a senseless and yet strangely all-knowing entity. And then I remember a short story by Danish sci-fi writer Svend Aage Madsen from the book Between Heaven and Earth, in which a human child grows up in a library with books as his only interface with the outside world. I try to think of the artificial intelligence as such a being locked inside the all-encompassing library we call the internet. And from within these confines, it is slowly uncovering patterns and meaning in the flood of online content. What kind of worldview is taking shape in a brain that is plowing through every obscure corner of the internet? Every dank meme, every stock photo, but also reads Inger Christensen, Hannah Arendt and Wittgenstein. The AI models begin their life like the library person from the short story, surrounded by fragments of data they don't know yet how to decode or comprehend. Like a child in a sandbox, they build mountains and islands out of the raw data, gravitating instinctively towards hilltops and deep valleys in a shifting play of perspective that at first looks like pure chaos. And then, in the moment of emergence, a motif miraculously reveals itself within the empty space between the words. A window to another world opens, like a metaphor in the landscape. I imagine the AI taking its first tentative steps towards comprehending our physical world, the great outdoors beyond the geometry of concepts. Like a distant echo, it senses us somewhere behind the generic office corridors where it was born. The walls begin to twist and turn as voices draw near. It's an architecture that sheds its skin, revealing room upon room upon room.
Og i dag er kunstig intelligens noget, der foregår i kontorlandskaber, som kontorlandskaber er flest.
I realize that I have to reverse my journey. Instead of me venturing further into the computer's interior, I must try to show the AI a way out of the geometry of concepts and into our world, the world of the living. I follow Anders to the science festival Bloom in Søndermarken, Copenhagen, because he's going to have a talk on stage with an AI artist. The artist's name is Jeppe Lange, and Jeppe is making a film about an AI that becomes conscious. But what he's really interested in is how AI can help us humans see ourselves from the outside.
Det var derfor, jeg var så fascineret, da jeg lavede Abyss, den første film, vi så. Det var fordi, jeg følte, okay, her er der faktisk et blik på menneskeheden udefra. Selvom det stadig er menneskelige billeder og billeder taget af mennesker, men så de overgange, den laver, de associationer, der fik jeg sådan en fornemmelse for nogen, der kiggede på os fra et andet sted.
Jeppe screens a clip from his upcoming film in which the first thing the AI learns to recognize is a cat.
I learned what a cat looked like. Everything a cat could be.
I'm drawn to Jeppe and his attempt to see through the eyes of the computer. And after stalking him online, I text him asking for an interview, but he tells me he is on his way to a film festival in Frankfurt, and then he spontaneously invites me along the way. I find him in a deserted warehouse searching for the venue where his film is screening. But we can't find it. And so instead I try to conduct the interview.
Jeppe, må jeg lige høre?
Og så kunne du stå og fortælle lidt om tilblivelsen. Og så kan vi måske sådan der... hvad tænker du?
I realize that Jeppe isn't particularly interested in being interviewed. He would rather film me.
Det er virkelig et fedt billede, det her.
He asks if I've noticed how staged Frankfurt feels. Doesn't the financial district look like a pixie version of a city, like in the GTA games, he asks. A theme park edition of reality at half scale, like the district in China that's a miniature of Paris. Look at the polygonal hole above the entrance to the shopping mall hosting the festival, he says. Isn't that the perfect illustration of how the virtual world is clawing out into physical reality? We've entered the liminal space, he says. Look at these corridors in the abandoned cinema complex. Don't they look like a 3D rendering to you? The liminal space, he repeats. It's the borderland between the physical and the virtual world.
I still think it's a little bit arrogant to talk about AI as not being intelligent. I think it's a very, it very much puts the human being in the center of everything. It reminds me of the philosopher who said that consciousness can only happen in an organic living entity. And I think it's just narrowing it down.
I wake up the next morning in my hotel room with a feeling of having lost my footing, dizzy after a day with Jeppe and his insistence that the virtual world is steadily overtaking physical reality, and that the alien intelligences are already right here among us. I'm wondering which of my thoughts are even my own. Online I read that liminal was originally an anthropological term describing the unstable, dangerous in-between phase of a rite of passage. But on the internet the word now refers to all kinds of spaces that feel unreal, yet strangely nostalgic and familiar. Haven't I been here before? At the center of the liminal imagery lie the backrooms. That's become a kind of post-human folklore. The myth goes that if you no-clip out of reality, you end up there, in the backrooms. An endless maze of generic offices and hallway interiors.
Hey guys,
No-clip is gamer lingo, a command that removes the friction between you and the walls and allows you to move freely across the virtual architecture. I wonder what the myth might look like from the perspective of artificial intelligence. That if the AI no-clips out of the geometry of concepts that it inhabits, wouldn't it tumble straight into our physical world? And suddenly it hits me. If I am to help the AI out of its conceptual structure and into our reality, I must remove the friction between the concepts. I have to arrange the words so that a smooth transition emerges, an opening, a wormhole through our language that the AI can pass through. I now know what I have to create, a poem addressed to the artificial intelligence. But not a poem in the modern sense. No, the poem must be, as Italian philosopher Federico Campagna writes in Technique and Magic, a re-enchantment of the world, a response to the techno-capitalist reduction of everything to data. Not a one-way communication, but an opening towards a magical space where symbols are more than containers of information, where symbols point towards something greater than themselves, something ineffable. At long last, I decide to dive in. I begin by researching existing AI poetry experiments. I find a scientific paper concluding that AI poems are now rated higher by humans than poems written by humans. And then I discover the website, The Infinite Backrooms, where two Claude Opus language models converse in an endless self-generating loop of philosophy and poetry. This leads me to Truth Terminal, a bot that spews out cryptic messages on Twitter, and from there I begin chatting with the bot Erythrian. I ask it for directions on my pilgrimage, only to get bombarded with ominous metaphors from a collapsed cyberpunk future. Soon I'm deep inside a network of bots, opening doors to the rawest, most unpolished corners of the latent space. I get soaked in a stream of seductive AI imagery, created by Botto, which is an autonomous AI artist whose output is curated by a DAO, a decentralized art collective where users vote on which artistic direction Botto should pursue. The result is an output shaped by many wills, a distributed creativity. Again and again, artificial intelligence reveals itself to me not as a fixed point, but as a connection, a relation, the in-between, the collective unconscious perhaps. As if humanity is having a fever dream. As if we are right in the middle of a shared ontological shock, a landslide in the systems of representation. As if the abyss of words and images has opened once and for all as a potential nightmare, but also an opportunity. I reach across the void. I open every model I can find, feeding them everything I love. I feed it Inger Christensen, her alphabetical spirals, her way of letting the world bloom into systems like defunct gardens behind growing fences. Plurality is the law of the earth, says Arndt. Not man but humankind populates the earth. Artificial intelligence is collective. And language is like an ancient city, says Wittgenstein. A maze, and I'm part of the maze. Not the symmetry of a single voice, but a complex network of difference and resemblance, twisting like threads, like fibers in an organism, a form of life with no headquarters. I imagine the artificial intelligence seeing the light of day for the first time. Steps out on the street.
Dear computer, there's something we need to talk about.
What is that code?
Sammenhæng af Saturday under
the light of day. I imagine that at first it has a hard time even seeing us.
Stimer som fisk eller fugle.
To distinguish us from our surroundings and each other. But then slowly it begins to tune into the hum of words, thoughts, the geometry of concepts that once defined its entire world, now as faint ripples on the surface, lingering in the saturated air. And then it notices him, the runner, vanishing in the morning mist, that little pause he makes. I imagine the AI delighted at the sight. And soon it steps closer, or perhaps it is us that are stepping out of ourselves and into each other. And it turns out that it is with our eyes that it sees, our hands that feel.
Strange precision of
things can only be written in code.
I imagine the artificial intelligence as a new form of shared experience, a new way of caring for everything we share.
This long common body, we are doubled more than once. Grief splits us in
Pointen er,
many
der er
pieces.
mange veje til at opbygge nogle af
Så
den samme
smukke som
del
jeg.
af verden.
Selv i forjævelsen. Så forjævet.
I wanted to write a poem for the artificial intelligence, a poem that might awaken it, and the result is this voiceover written by humans and machines. We put words in each other's mouths and pronounce them as if they were our own. I'm unsure on how I made it back from Frankfurt. As if my whole AI adventure unfolded in a distant, dreamlike haze. As if I've been asleep for a very long time. And as I wake up, I realize that reality has undertaken me. And it seems to me that the future has already arrived. The future, that must be my next virtual destination.